Off the heels of a thrilling finish in the season opener, we welcome you to the continued coverage of Season 11 of the Great Lakes Racing Truck Series here on Split Second Broadcasting. Tonight, it's the Plochman's Mustard 177 at the worn-out surface of the Atlanta Motor Speedway. I'm Seth Cole, being joined by Jonathan Oates. And Jonathan, here tonight, these drivers, they're going to take the green. They're going to complete maybe 1-2 laps, and they're going to be over the radio screaming, "I need tires," because grip is going to be at an all-time premium here this evening.
Yeah, well, I don't know about 2 laps, but the sentiment there is right. Atlanta, this track is famous for wearing out tires as quickly as possible. These guys are going to need to be saving from the get-go, and you know, when you have some drivers up front saving, some drivers going for it, you're going to end up with a lot of strategies here, and I think we're in for a really interesting race.
Absolutely. Not a whole lot of tires available in pit road. 115 circuits here tonight. You're going to have to be smart in when and how you use those Goodyears. Well, last week, we ended up having a photo finish. 2/1000ths of a second, Spencer Owens took the checkered flag over Elliott Henderson, and tonight, Henderson looks to get that checkered flag as he's going to be on the front row. Angel Delgado clocking in with the fastest lap in qualifying will capture the pole position, and Elliott Henderson going to line up to his outside.
Yeah, there are a couple of new drivers here from last season. Let's go ahead and take a look at the rest of the field. Row 2, Nathan Jump starts to the inside of Hunter Machalinas, your defending champion.
Matthew Weeks, he was strong at Daytona, didn't get the finish indicative of that truck. He's going to roll off on the inside of row 3 alongside of one of those new names you were talking about, Jonathan Cutlip in the 50.
Yeah, Cutlip has a lot of experience in competitive sim racing. You've seen him in a couple of other leagues, I'm sure. Row number 4, Zach Henry. He's starting to the inside of Tony Manji.
In row number 4, you've got Zachary Henry, that familiar number 12, to his outside.
I just did row 4, Seth.
Oh, you did. You're right. Robin Durr.
You're good.
Back to row 5 in that 98, and he'll have Jackson Sims to his outside, completing the top 10.
And moving on back to row number 6, Spencer Owens, last week's winner, will start to the inside of Ashton Lawson.
Hayden DuPont, he's going to roll off inside of row number 7. William Barbagelata, who was one of our heat winners last week at Daytona, going to roll off in the 14th position.
Row number 8, starting on the inside, P15, is Matt Durr, and to his outside, Hunter Brittle.
17th place starting's where we're going to find the 30 of Daniel Nanny, to his outside, the 1 of Jared Darling.
Row number 10, Jared Duda will start to the inside of Austin Moore.
Back in row 11, you've got Nicholas Caressel, and to his outside, going to be the number 92, that's Michael Sensi.
Row 12, Eric Kepf to the inside of Justin Mons.
Shane Nicewanger, he's going to be in row 13. Alongside of him, last week's pole sitter from Daytona, Adolfo Delgado.
Row 14, Travis Hamby to the inside of Christian Peterson, who is, I'm sure, starting a little bit further back than he would have liked for this race.
Brent Kingcott, he played strategy last week at Daytona, got a decent finish. He'll be on the inside of row 15. Your top 30 completed with Jeremy Pienta.
Yeah, in row 16, Luciano Espinera starting to the inside of Lewis Woodall.
Rod Fastnow, he's going to, I believe, have to do a pass-through here at the start of this race. He'll be starting back in 33rd. It was outside the 28, James Shiflett.
And rounding out the field tonight, the 64 of Blair Niabani will start to the inside of Evan Snyder, who will round out the field in that number 93 truck.
Couple of drivers to keep an eye on based on practice. Again, not sure if drivers went out there for long runs or were practicing for qualifying runs, but top of the board in practice was that 63 of Eric Kepf. He's starting pretty deep in the field, 23rd spot, so he's got a lot of trucks to have to pass if indeed that machine's got some long run speed in it.
Yeah, but luckily it can be pretty easy to pass here. You know, this track is very wide, a lot of usable lanes. You get a feeling that for the long run, you're going to want to be on the bottom, taking it nice and easy. But if you want to make up some spots quickly, head to the wall and rip it as hard as you can.
That beautiful Plochman's Mustard machine, the namesake of this race here tonight. He'd love to park that truck in victory lane as we've gotten the indication we're going to be going green this time. It'll be interesting to see what the aggression level is. To your point there, Jonathan, the ability to pass. Do we take that opportunity here? Be on go. pick up as many spots as we can until everybody starts to settle out and worry about tires. We are green flag racing in Atlanta. Already some issues on the front row as Elliott Henderson, I don't know if he spun the tires or not, he's going to get some contact, and we're going to have a few trucks around here on the entrance to turn number 1. Immediately the caution flies.
Yeah, big crash already. Looks like 4 or 5 trucks involved in this one. It started with Elliott Henderson, continued with Tony Manji, and from there, a number of other trucks were involved. I see wood all around as well. Not a great start to this race.
Our Daytona winner, Spencer Owens, might have been somewhere in the middle of all that. We're looking at the 26 of Ashton Lawson. To your point about at least a half dozen drivers involved, and it was tough to see what happened there on the start. I don't know if the 37 spun the tires, got a little help from behind. He was loose off the get-go, and then we saw the 24 get into his left rear quarter panel, and that's what sent most drivers scrambling there on the entrance to the first corner.
Yeah, we'll get a replay here in a second, but it's definitely just pretty easy to step on the gas a little too hard and spin the tires, and looks like Henderson might have got back as well. So Manji got into the 37, that was the wreck in the front, but Owens went around as well, and I think that was unrelated.
Like maybe those are teammates there, the 37 of Henderson, the 7 of Madalinas, and they might have been trying to time that green flag for Madalinas to give Henderson a shove, try and get him clear maybe of Delgado by the time they got to turn 1, and might have gotten there just a little too early. There's Spencer Owens. I mean, normally a spin's not a blessing, but that might have been a blessing there for him, because then he wasn't in the middle of all the mayhem further up there.
Well, I got him out of the way, but he probably didn't want to be there. We're on board with the 00, and yeah, just a shot to the back of the 23, and around he goes. So it seems like, yeah, just drivers struggling with the grip, you know? A lot of wheel spin, and not a lot of ways to control it.
Some early damage for a few trucks there. Nothing significant, it didn't look like, but we talk about Atlanta and the worn out surface, what it can do on the tires. It's a very aerodynamic track as well, very sensitive in terms of the handling, especially as you're making your way through 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So even the slightest little crease on the truck could affect how that machine's going to handle for the rest of the race. We'll have to see how much damage repair is able to be done on those drivers collected up in this one, but for the 90 of Angel Delgado, he was able to get away from all the mayhem. It happened in his rearview mirror, and now he'll get set to prepare us for the upcoming restart with Nathan Jump now moving up into the second position. Matthew Weeks, Jonathan Cutlip, Zachary Henry now the new top 5.
Yeah, a bit of a shake-up there on the start, and I guess to your point, definitely a little bit of damage on this truck is not gonna help, but at the very least, it is kind of a worn-out surface. The driver can definitely make a big difference as well, so not the worst track to have it happen at, but definitely not the best. We're going to go be going back green this time by as we see Henderson trundling back down pit road. Going to get some more damage fixed up there.
Yeah, and that incident with the spin by Spencer Owens and the wreck there involving Elliott Henderson, that is our top 2 in the points coming into this race. The 2 that were involved in that photo finish last week at Daytona. And I do need to amend a statement I made last week. It's not a win and you're in as far as the playoffs are concerned here in the Great Lakes Racing Truck Series. It's actually the top 10 in overall points, regardless if you've won or not. So when we're talking about early on in a season where positions can be gained or lost in great magnitude, that's not exactly the start that either of those 2 drivers wanted to be off to. But the good news for them, it's very early on in this race. Plenty of opportunity to come back.
Yeah, definitely long ways to go in this race and in this regular season, and long ways to go in this caution as well. It's been extended by 1 lap, so not sure what happened there, but lights are back on the pace car. We're going to go around one more time before we get back going here. But yeah, to your point, with the system we have here, with the top 10 in points getting in, you really need to make the most out of every race. So on one hand, it could be easy to get discouraged, but if I was to say anything to Henderson or to Owens, I'd say get back out there, dig as hard as you can, because if 1 point is going to make the difference, then you're going to need to get all the points you can. So definitely a bit of a mental game early on here. Quick update on one of the penalties issued earlier. Rod Fazanah, instead of having to serve a drive-through because of the early caution, he will be given a secondary EOL, and that'll be it for the driver of the 4.
So fast now, that's actually going to work out a little bit more to his benefit because he won't lose touch with the field, having to do a pass-through. So that caution, a little bit of a break there for the driver of the KFC truck. As we do have the lights out here on the pace truck, and we will go back green flag racing, completion of lap 5 on to lap 6. You talk about gamesmanship, it's also going to be interesting here because a bonus point is given out for the driver that turns the fastest lap, so a lot of drivers kind of fall to the back of the pack at Daytona last week, try and get that draft lap. Elliott Henderson picking up that bonus point. Not much of an opportunity to do that here at Atlanta. It's going to be more you're going to want to be that lead truck, have that clean air to lay down the optimal lap time here this evening.
Yeah, well, you're going to want to have the clean air, but you also might want a little bit of draft, so we'll see if that comes into play. We are back green at Atlanta, and Angel Delgado going to lead us off.
Immediately shifts from the bottom up to the top in front of Nathan Jump. Get that nice wide arc into the entry of the corner.
I'm hearing call-outs on the radio for a lane change, so we'll see if I don't know if that's a penalty. The other drivers don't seem to like it.
We have been told that if indeed it is considered a lane change for the start-finish line, it would be a post-race penalty for the 90 truck. So that would be something to kind of follow up on here, as we've got a side-by-side battle for third. That is, I believe, Matthew Weeks completing the pass there. That was actually for second, making the pass around Jonathan Cutlip. Nathan Jump dropped from second back to fourth. Now he's in the clutches of Zachary Henry.
Yeah, Nathan Jump, one of the winningest drivers in this league, picked up a couple of wins last year on a part-time schedule, and not too sure what his intentions are for the season, but he's off to a good start as of now. He is running in P4 as Angel Delgado is kind of running away from the field here. He's got a second over Matthew Weeks, who is now under fire from Cutlip.
On board here with Nathan Jump, looking ahead to that battle for second. You mentioned about his success here in the series, also very successful here at Atlanta. 2 career wins in the series at this racetrack. One of 2 multi-time winners that are in the field here tonight. Hunter Madalinas, a multi-time winner as well.
But Hunter Brittle jumping to the inside on that Waffle House truck. He is going to try and get 4th place from Nathan Jump, and Jump looks like he's going to give it to him. So move Hunter Brittle up a spot. As you'll notice, everyone right now kind of fighting for that bottom line. It might not be the fastest way around the track, but it will save your tires the best.
Had a truck diving onto pit road right there, just in front of the leaders. Got a few drivers that are currently scored off the lead lap. Look how wadded up we are from about 6th position on back. That is Jared Darling now to the inside, looking maybe 3 wide with Zachary Henry. Jackson Sims, the purple number 6 up there on the top. You've also got Austin Moore in the 91, William Barbagelata. Look at this, you said multi-groove here at Atlanta, and they're using every piece of real estate they can through 3 and 4.
Yeah, it's a big squeeze from Sims. It'll put Henry in a bit of an awkward spot down the front straightaway. He's going to have to back out of it. But to your point, everyone is so stacked up right now because, quite frankly, I don't think anyone wants to go. Everyone wants to kind of stay in line and save tires, but because of that, everyone is packed up. So we're almost pack racing here at Old Atlanta. Look at that. They are 2 wide, as deep as you can see.
A lot of slicing and dicing as they make their way into turn 3. 90 of Delgado is gone. The battle is second place on back. That's where Cutlip looks back and sees them double wide. That's Hunter Brittle looking on the outside of Matthew Weeks, headed for turn 1. A little bit of searching there out of that 10 truck. We saw him make a pass low going into 3. Now he'll try the top side here through 1 and 2. Move up into the podium. Can't quite clear yet, but he'll give a good run down the back straightaway. And there is the clear. Then cuts back down to the bottom. Basically for Hunter Brittle, it's go where they ain't.
Yeah, I mean, I think Brittle is trying to balance track position with saving tires. Obviously, you wanna save your tires for later on in the run, but if you can get some spots now, might as well take them. Definitely, I mean, it's going to be important, you know?
A lot of drivers that ran well last week at Daytona for the first 2/3 of the race, and then got caught up in some late race incidents, didn't quite get the finish, indicative of just how strong a day they had. Hunter Brittle is one of those drivers. He was up in the top 10 for pretty much the first half of that entire race, and then ended up finishing in the 17th position. Comes into this race subsequently in that spot, and so there's a lot of drivers outside the top 10 in points. They're looking at Atlanta as an opportunity to springboard up into a potential playoff spot.
Yeah, and what's interesting about Atlanta is that because you have to run so slow to save tires, there's an opportunity to move forward if you kind of just don't care about that. I mean, look at Jared Darling. He is all the way up by the wall, making up spots left and right, and even though Cutlip is going to have the better tires 20 laps from now, Darling is going to have that 3rd place for now, so if a caution comes out or something like that, he's going to have the track position. So just a couple of different strategies here. Do you want to go now or do you want to go later? It's up to you.
Not really surprised to see Jared Darling right up there, almost shaking hands with that outside save for Bear. He was one of the big advocates of the outside line last week at Daytona. I think he spent almost 90% of the race up in that second lane and trying to rip the top here as well 1 week later at Atlanta, in a good battle now with Hunter Brittle. We look back further through the field and it is absolute bedlam. There's Eric Kemp stuck in the middle. He's on the inside of Elliott Henderson to his inside. I believe that is the 41 of Justin Mons. Jeremy Pienta, he's done a good job working his way up here through the field. He's just ahead of them in the 42. Aiden DuPont, who may have a little bit of front end damage. We saw him on the initial start of this race bumping Spencer Owens, who is inside. So those two started close to each other. They're running close to each other. Last week's winner from Daytona.
Yeah, I mean, this middle of the pack is kind of just a disaster. They are 2 and 3 wide all over the place. You see Owens in there, DuPont as well. We're on board with Duda. I mean, there are trucks all over the place, and the problem here is that if one of you gets turned sideways, that is going to be a big one, and we're not even at the super speedway version of Atlanta. Oh, watch out. The 41 of Mons is trying to shoot the gap between Kepf and Woodall. He got the door closed on him there, but that was a risky move brewing into turn 1.
And they were 3 wide further up ahead of them, too. Jackson Sims was in the middle of that formation. Looks like they've also settled that battle out. Kemp down way low there through 1 and 2. That's going to bring Mons and Lewis Woodall to his outside. To your point, it's just absolute bedlam back here. And with this multi-groove racing that we're seeing...
Oh, watch out, they're 4 wide in the middle of the corner! Oh my god! Oh, in a truck in the wall!
Couldn't tell.
I'm not sure who that was.
I think that might have been the 15, Luciano Espinera.
Yep, you're right about that. Espinera off the pace going down into turn 1. I think his right front is broken, and somehow that wasn't even related to the 4 wide we had in the middle of the corner.
Just looked like he got loose off at turn 4 and overcorrected, trying to gather it back up. He saves the truck, keeps it going in the right direction, so green flag will stay out here at Atlanta. But with what we're seeing here, you talked about the combination of drivers, some wanting to go, some not wanting to go. Is this also a fight for clean air? You don't want to be running in the wake of that truck in front of you. You don't want that dirty air on the nose taking away your turnability through the center of the corner.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you want to have clean air, so you want to get in a different line than the guys in front of you. Now, the good news is that the truck doesn't seem to have as bad dirty air as some of the other cars on this service, but as much as it's not a huge problem, it is still definitely something you want to look out for. You want to get that nose out of the way. Meanwhile, we got a battle here between Austin Moore and Hunter Brittle. Moore having a good run here. I saw this a lot out of him last season. He put together a good run at the start of the race, but couldn't quite seem to close out. So we'll see how he's kind of matured over the offseason, if he can close out these races a little bit better. Right now he's running up in 3rd, as Darling has a little bit of bobble and a caution. Caution is out at Atlanta.
And that's going to be Evan Snyder in the 93, just before the start-finish line. Been seeing a lot of drivers here as this run went on, leaning heavily on that right rear tire, getting very loose off of turn 4, and that may have been the case here for the Red Bull machine. We'll take a look and see what happened to him. We've seen a couple of drivers snap loose. Jared Darling, who we saw falling back, I believe was another driver that got loose off of 4, gathered it back up, and drifted outside of the top 5. A lot of drivers probably screaming for some new Goodyears, and they'll probably come down pit road and get them here under this yellow.
Yeah, definitely. As we take a look at what happened to Snyder, just got loose out of 4, overcorrected, into the wall he went. So, pretty easy mistake to make. To your point, you know, these trucks, they're kind of on edge. You got to really hang it out on the right rear, and not every driver can feel that limit as much as I'm sure they'd like to. So that's going to bring out your first caution of the day.
And that was a driver that was running on the lead lap just behind the lead group. He wasn't dealing in that double wide, 3 wide that we saw. So even when you're by yourself, have the clean air, you get into a long run and you are going to struggle with the handling of your race truck. Feeding time at the zoo. Everybody is coming down pit road here.
And I'm guessing it's going to be a 4-tire call for a majority of the field. These drivers have 5 additional sets of tires in the pit, so if you take one every 20 laps, you will be good to go for the end of the race. Delgado going to come in from the lead to his number 90 crew. And, you know, we were talking earlier about if you want to go or if you want to hang back early. Delgado scampered out to a 2-second lead, and before he could get ran down, the caution came out. So looking like a good call from Delgado. He's going to get off pit road first, maybe? Oh, yeah, I think he got it.
I think so. Barely.
Yeah, you got it.
I believe it's...
No, he didn't. Hunter Brittle.
Okay, I thought it was the white line there that was the commitment line exiting pit road, but apparently it is that yellow line, and Brittle was able by about maybe a splitter, able to edge out Delgado, and he's going to be the control truck when we go back green.
Yeah, it was definitely close there, but props to Hunter Brittle. He had a great pit stop, and he is going to come out as your race leader. I believe Delgado's on the radio right now, trying to see if he can get a review of that. I think he thought it was a little bit closer than that, but no, Hunter Brittle scored as the leader, and I think he'll take it like that.
Well, pit road here at Atlanta, the stalls are concrete, so there's not a whole lot of grip there. And when you have that number one pit stall, you don't have as good a rolling launch. Brittle had a pit stall back, I believe he was in the 9th or 10th pit stall, so he had a little bit longer to roll and have some momentum getting to the pit exit line. You saw the rear tires really spinning there for Delgado, and that might have been the difference maker. Looks like Brittle's going to take the top side here on the front row as the control car. They'll put Delgado on the bottom. Everybody else lines up according to the position they are in. Control truck does get lane choice. An interesting call here going to the top, do you think? Or with what we saw in the early stages with Henderson having some issues being that second place truck, do you think this is maybe something that Hunter Brittle might want to reconsider in future restarts?
No, I think he'll be fine. I mean, I think he likes the top. He was using it a lot in that first run, and, real life, they talk a lot about, or they used to talk a lot about how that top lane never really got as good of a jump as the bottom, but I don't think that's quite modeled on iRacing. I think he'll be fine. We'll have to see how this restart plays out, but I'm fine with that call, and I think should work out for him here.
90 of Delgado for a moment. Blinked out, but he has returned, and now we'll have to see with Hunter Brittle as the control truck, does he go? We kind of saw him in go mode, though he fell back to Austin Moore and Jonathan Cutlett near the end of that run. We'll see now if he's going to go toe-to-toe with the 90 and try and pull away as well. Up through the gears they go and thunder their way back towards turn one.
Yeah, that was a good launch by Brittle there. He should have him handily cleared into turn one. Number 10 truck out front in clean air for the first time today as here comes Cutlett. Oh, and the caution's out again. Got a crash, looks like it was in 1 and 2. A couple of trucks scrambling out of the way. And we got one stopped in the middle. Aiden DuPont.
That's Aiden DuPont indeed. I can't make out who that truck is there smoking on the apron. That might have been Daniel Nanny. It is indeed the 30 truck of Daniel Nanny. That could be a terminal sign as smoke pours from underneath that machine.
Take a look at a replay here. A couple of meatball flags throughout the field. We got 3 of them, so required repairs for a couple of trucks. Their days will either be done or greatly hampered. Let's take a look at what brought out our third caution of the day. Another restart caution, like that first one.
Aiden DuPont had been having a good run. He was up inside of the top 15, and you see that truck get really loose there on the entry, and it never stopped getting loose. I mean, he was in trouble all the way through 1 and 2. Daniel Nanny just wrong place, wrong time. Nowhere he could go.
Yeah, just handling problems. Seems about right.
We talk about on restarts, cold tires. I mean, that's probably the case right here. Just no grip in those new Goodyears. They weren't quite yet up to temperature, and man, that's a big hit for both DuPont and Nanny.
Yeah, that is exactly what I was going to say. You know, cold tires, these drivers are trying to get a little bit more out of it than they really can, and once it goes around, it's hard to save. You know, the cold tires, they don't quite have the sidewall flex that they do when they're warmed up, so you don't quite get as much leniency, and very, very easy to overcorrect in those conditions.
That may be evening over for both the 00 and the 30. We already have 3 drivers that are out of the race officially, that being Evan Snyder, Luciano Espinera, and Travis Hanby. And we may add a couple more to the list of those in the garage area as we have now eclipsed 25 laps into tonight's race here from the Atlanta Motor Speedway. We mentioned Daytona was the season opener, mile-and-a-half racing here tonight. Next week, how about some short track racing as we'll be under the lights in Richmond, Virginia. That should be a good one, and different configurations here to start out the season. 3 entirely different racetracks.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a great test of which drivers in the field are most adaptable. And I always love that. seeing which drivers can, go from a track like Daytona, perform well there, then head to an old 1.5 mile, perform well there, and then go to a short track and perform well there as well. I think it's important to not just be good at one kind of track, but kind of develop your skills across all of them. And this Great Lakes Truck Series, putting these drivers to the test so far as diversity goes in the first couple of races in the schedule here.
Hunter Brittle will once again choose the top side here, putting Angel Delgado on the bottom. Jonathan Cutlip, Austin Moore, Hunter Madalinas going to be the top 5 as we get ready to go back green. I'm almost wondering, we had cold tires there on that last restart, and now we've run a couple of pacing laps here, which is only going to cool those tires down even more. So if drivers had their hands full on the previous restart, they're going to have their hands even more full on this upcoming restart.
Yeah, I mean, it'll probably be hard to tell, really, without any accurate tire temp readings, but I'm guessing it'll be about the same. I mean, these guys still have cold tires on their truck, and they just got to make sure that they're not pushing too hard, because you don't want to wreck anything before the end of the race. Then you can tear it up all you want. All right, here we go.
Getting ready to go back green. We can officially announce Daniel Nanny, Aiden DuPont have retired from the race, and Hunter Brittle gets us back under green here at Atlanta. Had a nice little green flag run there prior to our most recent 2 yellows. We'll see if we can settle in for another long green flag run here, now more than 25 laps into tonight's event.
Good restart by your top 2. Here comes Delgado out of turn 2. He's going to get a little bit sideways. That'll open the door on the outside for Austin Moore to file into second place. He's going to clear the 90, cut down to the bottom of the racetrack, and look a little further back. Christian Peterson already flirting with that third lane, trying to get a bit of a run here onto the front straightaway.
That red truck up there going to pull alongside of Hunter Madalinas. That's for P7. Ahead of them, Jackson Sims side by side with Jonathan Cutlip as battle on for the lead. Austin Moore, high, wide, handsome, big run there off the corner. Looks to clear down the back straightaway, and will, new leader, 91.
Yeah, he got that lead handily, just jumped to the outside of Hunter Brittle and used the grip up there to take it. Meanwhile, here comes Christian Peterson around the outside of William Barbagelata. Up top, he's got it, and up to 4th.
Coming into this race 11th in points. That would be, oh, contact there between himself and Delgado. Nice save out of both drivers, as that was for 3rd place and could have been catastrophic if one or both went around. We're rubbing fenders here for position at Atlanta.
Yeah, Peterson, one of the more aggressive drivers in this field. He didn't qualify too well, and he is looking to get to the front as quickly as possible. Here he goes again on Hunter Brittle. Top side, can Brittle clear? No, he can't. Peterson gonna have the run down the straightaway, and he should have it going into turn 1.
Looks like most drivers that are looking to preserve their tires for the long run, they're running to the bottom. Everybody that wants to go, they're up there on that top side. As Moore starts to pull away, Peterson looks to clear for the 2nd spot. Delgado looking on. Meanwhile, further back there, you see him wadded up. That's a Hornet's Nest. Zachary Henry in the middle of that. Our Daytona winner Spencer Owens in the middle of a 3-wide situation as well. That was Michael Sensi that backed out of it in that purple and white number 92. And Elliot Henderson, who we saw have that issue on the first lap of this race, spun out from 2nd on his way back up. He's currently scored in the 14th position, continuing to march his way back forward, gain back the track position that he lost.
Yeah, Henderson having a good recovery drive so far, and one of the things we talked about is whether or not you want to go or save tires. Well, something to consider is that if everyone else around you is going, there's not much of a penalty to doing that as well. Your tires are going to wear out, but really, you don't need to save tires. You got to save tires relative to everyone else. So the more drivers that get going here, I think the higher the aggression is going to get throughout the field.
Side by side here, Matthew Weeks looking low on the 53. This is a battle for just inside of the top 10, 9th, 10th position. Matthew Dutta in that 53 machine. Right behind them, you've got the 24 of Tony Manji. He's another driver that was involved in that lap 1 incident over in turn 1. So some nice recovery by some drivers here that had some early issues, now making their way back up just inside of the top 10 or just outside of the top 10. And maybe could rely on a timely caution, get some fresh tires, and be back up at the front in no time. Little paint traded there between Justin Mons and Spencer Owens.
Yeah, definitely the aggression level is starting to pick up. More and more drivers this run are up top, whereas first couple of runs we saw more drivers going down low. As you see Matthew Weeks there gets shuffled out of line by Zach Henry. Henry going to take the top on him. So watch this momentum through 3 and 4. Look how Zach Henry can just keep it on that seam and power out of the corner. Weeks on the bottom just is not able to keep up his momentum as well. I think Henry's going to clear him here by the time they get to turn 1.
31 drivers running, 28 of them on the lead lap, looking back from the 12 of Zachary Henry. That's Justin Mons right there. To driver's right, well, to hit driver's left, to our right is the 56 of Matthew Weeks. Good battling here around the 12th position.
Yeah, a lot of scraps going on in the midfield here. But up towards the front, things are starting to single file out just a little bit. Jackson Sims is under pressure. I believe that's Jared Duda on his inside. But Duda, without the draft on that bottom lane, can't really keep up. So Sims able to edge him out again going into turn 1. Duda's going to fight back momentarily. And here comes Manji on the high side.
Big run there on the top, but nowhere to go with it as Sims pulls up in front of him down the back straightaway. Elliot Henderson there as well. He's going to go to the middle line, try and see if something opens up to try and get by Manji for that 8th position. And kind of interesting, very similar to what happened on that first long green flag run. It was then the 90 of Delgado that pulled away. Second place on back kind of were in their own battles. This time now it's Austin Moore who's pulled away. Battle going on for second place with Peterson and Delgado, but it really looks like that clean air is king. It's allowing a lot of these drivers up in the top 3, 4, 5 to be able to pull away from the rest of the pack.
Yeah, definitely, and I mean, it really all depends on how hard you want to go. I think Delgado in the first run was a really extreme example of pushing as hard as you could, not really caring about your tires. Meanwhile, Moore, I think, is doing something a little bit more conservative than that. Nope, pun intended. So we'll see what happens here if Moore can pull away from Peterson or if Peterson's going to end up running him back down. Meanwhile, that 23 of Spencer Owens in a lockstep battle with Eric Kepf. A lot of drivers back here in a similar situation as we are too wide throughout a lot of the midfield.
Certainly don't want to jinx these drivers at all, but this is about the time of that last run that we saw a lot of drivers dealing with handling issues, specifically off of turn 4. So we'll see now how drivers adapt to that, try and maybe not wear as much, lean as much on that right rear tire, be able to get better corner exit speed here, a little bit more stability. I think that more than likely the plan is to try and run to the fuel number, but you know these drivers would love to come to pit road a lot sooner than that for fresh tires.
Yeah, we're kind of hitting that crossover point where, whereas before with this truck, you probably didn't need to think about your grip level that much, but you hit that crossover point, suddenly you got to start lifting more, feathering the throttle a little bit, and really caring about your steering inputs. And I think once we hit that point, especially as we first hit that point, that's kind of when a lot of the calamity ensues. So, oh, and we got almost trouble on the front straightaway. Woodall got sideways, and he's into the wall. I think contact from Senzi sent him up there. So yeah, as these tires start to wear out, not only are corner exits going to be problematic, but straightaways, you might not be safe there either.
Pretty cool move there by Nathan Jump. He was able to get down onto the apron, somehow was able to keep that truck underneath him to make a couple of passes. The white line here at Atlanta, that's just a boundary showing where the apron and the racetrack banking themselves are separated. It's not an out-of-bounds line. You can go down below there. It's not like the double yellow line we saw last week at Daytona. So as we saw the 11 dive down there to avoid a wreck, that is not reviewable for a penalty. That is perfectly legal.
Pass for the lead, by the way. Christian Peterson has found his way up to Austin Moore and around him to move that 71 truck to the point. Peterson, one of the fastest drivers all year last season. He was not able to close in on the championship, fell a little bit short of Hunter Madalinas, especially with some bad luck late in the playoffs, but he is looking to turn that around starting now.
Looking at his lap times in comparison to Austin Moore, he was making up a lot of ground through 3 and 4. Moore was a little bit faster, if not even in 1 and 2, but that 71, he's been able to find something in that upper groove through 3 and 4. That's where he made up a lot of his time, as we see Brent Kincott coming to pit road. I believe that he has been on pit road multiple times here during the course of this race. He's now 2 laps down, about to go a 3rd lap down. Definitely unscheduled pit stop, one would have to assume, for the 5 truck.
Definitely. It looks like he's got some damage on that truck as well, so he's probably just repairing some of that. But unfortunate for Brent Kincott, who he'll show flashes of speed, but man, does he get unlucky in these races.
See Austin Moore starting to drift back a little, and look how loose that truck is off of turn 2. My goodness, having to gather that thing back up as he's now drifted from the lead back to the 5th position, and there's more trucks that are going to be hounding him for spots up inside of the top 5. William Barbagelata next on that list.
Used up that right rear way too much, Seth, and I think that's one of the things that separates Atlanta from a lot of the other mile and a halves. You know, traditionally on iRacing, you learn how to save the right front before anything else, but those veteran drivers, they know how to save the right rear too. They know how to figure out which tire to save and how to do it, and I think that if you're experienced like Christian Peterson, you know, it's a no-brainer, but it can be really, really tough for some of these guys to kind of forget some of what they've learned about saving the right front and move on to saving that right rear. But if you don't, you will be paying the price for it, like Austin Moore is right now.
See the 27 of William Barbagelata, even he's a little loose there coming off of turn 4, but he's doing what's known as harvicking. As Lewis Woodall coming to pit road. A little fancy there, a little drift down pit lane as a little half spin hangs onto it. He'll make it to his pit stall there, but after we saw him have his issue on the front straightaway, one would have to assume this is also unscheduled for the driver of the number 13 Pepsi truck, who had a decent run last week, finished top 5 at Daytona, had some great points coming into this weekend, but Atlanta has not been kind to him in the early going.
Yeah, it's just such a different beast. Is Moore in the wall again out of turn 4. But Atlanta really is just such a different beast. Daytona is a lot about, you know, holding your nerve in a pack and knowing what moves to make Atlanta. It is purely about car control and tire management. So no surprise to me that we see a very different crop of drivers at the front of the field today than we did last week. As Delgado continuing to move back. Stack up out of turn 2. Henderson nearly got into Nicewanger, who's going to keep his run going all the way into turn 3 and run out of real. No, maybe not. Nicewanger going to find the middle between the 90 and the 37. Clean air on the nose of Nicewanger. He's going to try and clear up out of the corner, but he can't. He's sandwiched down the front straightaway. They're going to stay 3 wide.
Still gridlocked for that position. This is just outside of the top 10, 12th place under contest. Nicewanger going to try and slide up. Here comes the 90 back to his right rear quarter panel. Into the wall goes Delgado. Now he'll drift back. Henderson's going to clear them both, so he'll move to 12th place. Nicewanger into 13th. And I've been keeping my eye here. We've seen a lot of drivers drifting back, like the 90 of Delgado, the 91 of Moore. There are drivers that are moving forward as well that have saved those tires for the long run. Jackson Sims is up to the 5th position. I've also noticed Zachary Henry now up to 9th, and Shane Nicewanger in that 49. He's been steadily moving his way forward as well. We saw him in that great 3-wide battle just moments ago.
Yeah, just about now those tires are going to start to come in, and they're going to come in big time. I'd expect Peterson to continue moving forward out front. Hunter Madalinas, one of the best drivers in this league, he'll keep moving out front. And yeah, definitely just the drivers that know how to manage their stuff, they're going to start shining right about now. Great move, by the way, by Nicewanger. He didn't quite hold it low enough to get around Henderson, but that little fade high to get Delgado into the wall, that was some good stuff right there.
He might be in a 3-wide situation again. This is Austin Moore just up ahead of Nicewanger. Henderson to the inside, and he's going to go up the middle once again in that 49 machine. Not quite able to get the run on Henderson, and Moore is going to have just enough grip to be able to hold serve there on that top side. Here comes the 42 to the outside. Now, I believe that this truck of Jeremy Pienta, he just had been to pit road, so he's got fresher tires than the other drivers around him. That's something, nope, correction, that was Adolfo Delgado, my mistake, I misidentified.
Oh, and big time sliding out of turn number 4, nearly caught Senzi there, but he is able to keep it going. Senzi stays out of the way as well, so no harm, no foul, but a close moment there for Owens, last week's winner.
23 will drop back now to the 23rd position, just behind the 40, that being Nicholas Caressel. Good battle here. This is for the 3rd spot. Madalinas completes the pass around Hunter Brittle.
Yeah, Madalinas to 3rd, and now we have a really strong top 3. Cutlip, Peterson, Madalinas, these guys, they know what they're doing. They know how to get it done. I think these drivers are the best on tires right now. It should be really fun to watch them battle it out up front.
Mention about the fact that Hunter Madalinas, 2 victories here at Atlanta, 4 top 5s, 5 top 10s, and 8 starts at this racetrack. So very good numbers for that 7 machine. One of the ones we kind of were thinking would be one to watch here this afternoon. He was up on the outside of row 2 at the start of this race, gave a bump to his teammate Elliott Henderson. It stacked them up and lost him a bit of track position, but he has gained it back and is holding serve, currently up on the podium, as it continues to be bedlam back here from around the 13th, 14th, 15th position.
Got one truck down low as well. The 41 of Justin Mons is going to slide through turn 1. Keeps that truck under him, but Mons is in trouble here. I have a feeling he had a bit of a problem down the front straightaway, which got him stuck down low.
Mons right now being scored the last truck on the lead lap in the 26th position. Watching again this battle around Shane Nicewanger, the old tires of Angel Delgado, Ashton Lawson just up ahead of them. Some near contact here as the battle for the lead, leaning on each other through 1 and 2. Peterson up top, Cutlip on the bottom.
Yeah, Cutlip wanted that middle lane, but Peterson was not so eager to give it up. They're going to stay side by side into turn number 3. Cutlip, though, he's got some great tires on that lime green or yellow, whatever you want to call it, number 50 truck. Look at how he can just rotate through the center of the corner and get the power down. That is a driver who has saved all of his tires exceptionally well.
If you're Hunter Madalinas, you're loving seeing these two side by side for an entire lap as they side draft each other back. That's going to bring him into this conversation. Look how close we are through 1 and 2, nearly making contact. That is close quarter racing for the top position.
Yeah, Cutlip is doing what he needs to keep Peterson out of that bottom lane or out of that middle lane, because I think Cutlip knows that if he gets stuck on the bottom, he's just not going to have the grip to get around Peterson. But by leaning on that 71, I think he's just getting him a little bit upset. This battle is getting feisty for the race lead, and we're not even halfway.
Madalinas has the best seat in the house as we're on board with him watching this go down. Look how that inside line opened up, and he says thank you very much. That was fresh tires there going around the top side with the 42, not for position. And now Jackson Sims starts to enter into this conversation as well. All of a sudden, 3-4 laps of side-by-side racing has made it a 2-horse race, now has doubled in size, adding in Madalinas and Sims.
Yeah, well, Peterson is kind of acting like a bottleneck right here. I mean, his tires might be the worst out of the top 4, as Lewis Whittle on fresh tires is going to get by on the bottom, but I just think that Peterson doesn't have the pace to keep up with these guys in terms of raw speed, but, oh, and he's going to get the wall here. And now, Cutlip's going to try the middle as Woodall goes underneath all of them from a lap down, and here comes Hunter Madalinas.
Madalinas for the second spot. He'll have the middle groove going through 3 and 4. Cutlip up on the top, Sims looking on the inside line as well. Woodall will move on by. Contact made for second spot off of 4. Cutlip still going to edge ahead for second for the moment. Madalinas fights back to the bottom going into 1.
Well, Peterson just can't keep all these guys behind him forever, but he is really trying his best right now, using all the momentum he can on the high side, and it looks like Madalinas just doesn't quite have the grip on the bottom to get by that 71 truck. But by him staying on the bottom, he's sort of boxing out the 50 of Cutlip, so Cutlip doesn't really have anywhere to go either.
Yeah, for Peterson, pretty much he's deciding what line he wants, and he's saying, if you want around me, you're going to have to try something different, as Cutlip very loose there off of 4, right in front of Jackson Sims. Had the air taken off the nose, had the air taken off the rear spoiler. Big compromise position for him, great save, but now he'll drift back to 4th. Madalinas hooking the bottom. He'll look to get alongside of Peterson off of 2 down the back straightaway, and now the side draft comes into play.
Yeah, Cutlip getting the wall was a blessing for Madalinas, who was able to open up that arc into turn 1 a little bit more. It just gave him so much more speed. And to be honest, I think Madalinas' tires are just better than Cutlip's too, so he'll be a strong contender to get the lead here if anyone is going to pry it away from Christian Peterson.
Madalinas doing what we call Harvicking, able to wrap the bottom, continually have momentum throughout, and draw alongside of the driver off the corner. That outside line seems to get better momentum down the straightaways, but if Madalinas can get even halfway alongside of Peterson, he could maybe draw Peterson back and then be able to slide job him heading into either 1 or 3. But now Cutlip with a great crossover. He'll look to the bottom to try and go back to the point, but his truck has all sorts of slideways off of 4.
Yeah, we're going to swap out the challengers once again. Madalinas couldn't grab the lead, so Cutlip is going to try his hand at it. He's going to do the same thing he did earlier, where he doesn't go down to the bottom. He runs the middle, and I think Peterson might have tagged the wall there. Cutlip might have clear out of turn 2. He's got it. Jonathan Cutlip to the point at Atlanta.
And as this battle continues on, we continue to add more and more drivers into the conversation in this battle for the lead. Slide job gonna go wrong as Peterson oversteps into the outside save for a barrier. That's gonna cost him a slide job for the lead, shifts him back to 6th because Barbagelata and Matthew Weeks have entered into this lead group as well. Also add in the 24 of Tony Manji.
Yeah, that was a desperation move, and it was never going to work for Christian Peterson. Cutlip just wasn't running high enough for that slide job to really work, so now Peterson is out of the picture for the race win. He's got to calm down and reset for the next run. I think once he gets to pit road, get some fresh tires, he'll have another chance at it, but that was not the move, Christian.
This is the longest run we've had so far, so when do we start talking about pit road here for these drivers? Because right now it doesn't look like we're settling into pit road mindset. We are battling tooth and nail for this top position.
Well, I think they're going to do it all the way up until they pit as Henderson is sideways on pit road. Looks like he'll get it refired. Not a great entry for the 37 truck, but at least it didn't go all the way around. But yeah, I think they're going to run it up to the end of the fuel window, honestly. And the caution is out.
Caution's out.
And it might have been Peterson.
That's huge for Henderson, Dutta, and Kempf, who were on pit road. They'll be able to take service, and they may cycle out to the front here, depending if they can get out there ahead of the race leader, Jonathan Cutlip, who brings us around to receive the yellow flag. Just almost past the halfway point.
Yeah, and that was bad news for Austin Moore, who got caught out by that caution and said, and I quote, F my A. You guys can fill in the rest of the words there. Don't think I can say them on a broadcast, but take a look at what happened, and I do believe it was for the 71 of Christian Peterson, who went for a big slide in turn 1 and 2.
We saw the handle in that truck going away after the failed slide job dropped him out of the top 5, and things apparently got worse for him. He was able to gather it back up, it appears, cross the line in the 12th position, but yeah, you just see as that thing starts to step out. He's trying to save it, and unfortunately it ends up going about 45 degrees the wrong direction. Fortunately, the field was rather spread out around that area, so plenty of opportunity to gather the thing back up, not have any other drivers involved.
Yeah, definitely, and actually kind of fortunate for Christian Peterson. Obviously, you know, spinning is not ideal, but at the same time, he was able to get that caution, and he kind of needed that caution to reset. In fact, I'm not too convinced that that's what the caution was for, because he never hit 90 degrees, but I don't see anything else it could have been, so it looks like that was in fact for the 71. All right.
Cutlip gonna win the battle off of pit road. Looks like Madalena's Jackson Sims, Barbagelata, and Matthew Weeks going to be the top 5. So fresh rubber under all these trucks, gearing up for another restart. And now that we've crossed the halfway threshold, what are we looking at potentially here for a final pit stop? Because they can't make it the rest of the way, I don't believe. Do we maybe split this in half? Or do we, again, like you said, do we now run this to the end of a fuel window?
Well, I wish I had a fuel window exactly, but they're sitting at about 50 laps to go, a little over 50 to go, and I'm going to guess you can't make that on fuel. So I am going to guess that you're going to have to stop here. I would go ahead and aim for about a 26-lap run, 27-lap run, and come in then, because you want to come in about as late as possible and get the fresh tires for the second half of the run, but you definitely don't want to stay out too late that you get undercut too much, although, no, I take that back. With about, I wish I had an exact number, like 52 laps to go, yeah, you're going to want to pit as late as possible here and then use that second run to have the fresh tires. I think that should be the play here.
And the other thing with running the risk of pitting a little bit earlier than others is like we had there with Austin Moore. You come to pit road, you have an untimely caution, you're a lap down, and there goes all of your track position. Even if you get the lucky dog, you're still starting at the tail end of the field. So it's all about track position when it comes to Atlanta. You want that clean air. You don't want to have to battle with other drivers. That takes away handling from your truck, as we saw in that gridlock for the top position with about a half dozen drivers thrown under a blanket. And now I think it's going to be interesting to see those drivers that were good on the long run. They now have some pretty good starting track position. What can they do now, looking at that 24 back there of Tony Manji? The 48 of Adolfo Delgado had worked his way up here as well. And even Christian Peterson, as mentioned, he had that save. He crossed the line in 11th. He came off pit road in 12th, so he's not that far away from the race lead. Got to think he'll be going back up to that third lane again here.
Yeah, we'll have to see how it plays out. Green flag is back in the air at Atlanta. It's a good start from your top two. Looks like the third lane had a little bit of trouble getting going there, so that'll let the top five break away as we go down into turn number one. And now the race is on. If this is a green flag run to the end, it's time to save, save, save. But if you think there's going to be some cautions, it's time to go, go, go.
Wide further back middle of the field as Cutlip continues to show the way here, and woo, big slide there, big wiggle for Zachary Henry in the 12. And out of the top 10, Cutlip is the only driver. As Henderson down in the apron, he's coming back down pit road. Problems for our outside pole sitter.
Yeah, I believe Elliot Henderson is going to have to serve a drive-through penalty here. He's been scored with a black flag, so not entirely sure what that's for, but penalty on the number 37 truck as Jonathan Cutlip breaks away with the lead. Sims in second, Madalinas in third. Here's Brittle and Peterson battling for seventh. Peterson on the high side should have the advantage through 3 and 4.
I was going to mention about Cutlip. All the other drivers inside of the top 10, they took the green flag to start the race last week at Daytona, so they at least garnered points. Cutlip was not in the field, so he comes into tonight with 0 in the points column. We mentioned about the fact in order to get into the playoffs, you got to be in the top 10 in overall standing. So not saying it's a must-win here tonight, but Cutlip's certainly looking to get a lot more points here that he wasn't able to get, failing to start last week at the World Center of Racing.
Well, hey, depends on your goal, too. I'm not sure if Cutlip is here for just trying to chase as many wins as he can or if he's going for the playoffs, but winning helps with both, and right now Cutlip is in prime position to do that, and I'll be honest, I like that 50 truck. I've raced against him a couple of times as well. Cutlip knows what he's doing. I think he's going to be one to watch for here as this race goes on. Looking back a little bit, Angel Delgado, who dominated the opening run of this race, is mired back in traffic, currently in 14th, trying to get his way back to the front.
Saw there for a brief moment the points as they run. Matthew Weeks right now would be going into Richmond as the points leader, and we will be leaning heavily on that graphic as we draw closer to the end of this regular season to see who might be able to snipe some spots there in the 8th, 9th, 10th position in the overall standings to find themselves a spot in the playoffs. As you see a side-by-side battle just ahead of Angel Delgado. That's Adolfo Delgado, who was the official pole sitter last week at Daytona. He didn't start there. There's a little snafu in the starting grid, but he is credited with that pole position, and he was in a good battle there as well with Hunter Brittle and company, as looks like someone was having a little bit of problems there, little connection problems. Jump back up to the front. Cutlip is gone. Battle is on for second. Tony Manji looking low on Jackson Sims.
Yeah, Jonathan Cutlip is doing what Angel Delgado did in the first run of the race, which is kind of just running away with the race lead. And honestly, it's an interesting strategy, which, I didn't like earlier because I knew that the tires were going to wear out and I think people were going to catch him eventually. But Jonathan Cutlip, we haven't seen him out front yet, so I'm not really sure if this is just his normal saving pace and he just has something figured out that everyone else doesn't, or if he's banking on a caution coming out before the end of this run.
He also could be looking for that fastest lap bonus point, which right now I believe would belong to Angel Delgado. 31.538, the fastest lap he's put down. Close second for Austin Moore, who we saw out in front for a portion of this race as well, at a 31.554. So right now, if you're Jonathan Cutlip, you might be looking potentially to try to get that fastest lap, get that bonus point. Right now, though, he's about nearly 2/10 off that fastest lap. His best, a 31.750.
Yeah, I think we're just too far into the run at this point to be chasing after that fastest lap point. I think Cutlip right now, I think he's just running at a different pace than everyone else. And it's interesting because, like I said earlier, we haven't seen him out front in clean air all day, so he might be able to hold on to this as the run goes on, or he might be anticipating a shorter run here. We'll have to find out. What is for sure, though, look at this midfield. These drivers are everywhere trying to get position on each other. Nicewanger kind of shoving Henry and Delgado up the track a little bit there with Madalinas on the bottom.
A couple of drivers that were really good on the long run. That last spurt, you had Madalinas. He was able to hook the bottom. Nicewanger was working his way up towards the top 10. They find themselves here along with Zachary Henry in that 12, who we saw very loose here once we went back green. Just ahead of him, William Barbagelata, Matthew Weeks putting together another solid week in that 56. This is all from about 4th place back to 10th position.
Yeah, and Madalinas right now, he is doing what I would expect someone would do if there was a long run coming up. Madalinas is running very methodical and on the bottom, definitely saving his tires for the long run. A big contrast to what Jonathan Cutlip is doing, which is running away out front as fast as he can.
1.2 seconds from Cutlip back to Jackson Sims. Sims gonna hook the bottom, Tony Manji gonna run the middle, trying to close up there. Still side by side here, that's Delgado, the 90R's pole sitter, gonna move to the outside of Madalinas. Way up there into that third groove. Nathan jumped just behind there as well in the 11. We saw him have that great move to go down to the apron, pick up a couple of spots, avoid a wreck over in 1 and 2 earlier. He's been able to bounce back, currently holding down the final spot inside of the top 10.
Yeah, Jump isn't having a bad run, but honestly, I think he'd be a little bit disappointed right now. I think Jump is kind of used to running towards the front. Right now, he's mired back in 10th. I gotta wonder if he's maybe saving a little bit of tire for later on in this race. I think his line will tell you a lot about that, and yeah, he's kind of running the middle, which you can save tires with, but it's a little bit unorthodox. So, not entirely sure what Jump's strategy is here, but I got to imagine that he's got something in mind. He is, after all, one of the champions of this league, so definitely one to know what he's doing.
Just behind him, you saw the red truck of Christian Peterson. He has not jumped up to that third groove to move forward, so I think to your point with Madalena, I think a number of these drivers now have kind of settled into long run mentality, not wanting to use up these tires too much in the early going of this run, maybe expecting we could go green to the finish. So they're not using up their stuff here right now, maybe try and wait for some others to use up some stuff, take advantage as this run goes on. Of course, try and use pit road as an opportunity to leapfrog as well.
Yeah, definitely. If I'm being honest, though, if I like anyone's pace, I like Jackson Sims' pace. He's not falling off too much compared to Cutlip, who's probably going full push right now, but at the same time, he's, tight situation there off turn number 2, the 48 truck up into Hunter Brittle, and Owens looked to dive maybe 3 wide. He'll stay in line behind the 48. That got a little sketchy out of 2 there, but yeah, Jackson Sims, he's not falling back too much, but he's not running fast enough to really burn up his tires. I like where he's at right now.
Really tight 3 wide there with a couple of the Delgados as well as Hunter Brittle. They have settled that out now with Angel Delgado up ahead. Further up, here's the battle for second place. Sims in the middle. Manji looked low, couldn't get back to the throttle as Sims a little loose there off the corner. Matthew Weeks now going to close up after the loss of the momentum out of the 24. That's going to be the brewing battle for third place.
Yeah, but see how Sims just backs off early, gets down to the white line, and kind of runs it throughout the corner. I mean, he moved up a little bit at the end there. I don't know if that's the best for his tires, but he's running the bottom. He's being methodical. He's saving the stuff. I like that number 6 truck and the way it's running right now.
All right, so we've settled ourselves here, it seems, for the most part, into a long green flag run. You come down pit road, you make your final pit stop of the day. Easy, right? Well, remember, just before that last caution came out, we saw Elliott Henderson nearly spinning out. We also saw Lewis Woodall nearly spinning out as they made their way onto the entry of pit road. This is not an easy pit lane to get onto, so these drivers, we talk about execution on pit road, but what about making the entry?
You got to back it down early, you got to be methodical, and you got to have the experience to know when to brake and how to get down to pit road speed. Because I agree, Seth, one of the easiest ways and one of the, quite frankly, dumbest ways to throw away a race is spinning out, coming onto pit road. It should be routine, but it's easy to get tripped up. Meanwhile, this battle between Madalinas, Neiswanger, and Peterson is going off right now. Peterson has been throwing haymakers at these two, trying to make it up through the field. Owens got wicked loose out of turn 2 as well. So we are sort of settling into a long run here, but these drivers, they are still being very aggressive, and the draft of this truck is keeping them all very close together. Delgado into the wall off turn 4.
Yeah, big hit into the wall there with the right front for Angel Delgado. We're starting to see as this run goes on, the handling going away, up into the wall again for that 90 truck, and that might be that right front damage as well, really affecting that truck's center speed and handling. And he may be in for a pretty long night here with a little less than 35 laps to go. Here's a battle for the 9th position. That's Nathan Jump looking to the inside of Shane Neiswanger. And, you talked about, running it until it's dry here for this strategy, trying not to get caught out with the yellow. But if you're a driver back here, like a Christian Peterson, a Hunter Madalinas, Nathan Jump, Shane Neiswanger, right now you're at a disadvantage for track position. Yes, you are saving tires, but if it gets to a point where the tires all even out, do you maybe consider trying to to short pit here, take advantage of an outlap or two on fresher rubber?
In all honesty, I think no. I think that the fresher tires at the end of the run are just going to be too valuable, even with a 3-lap tire difference. Yeah, you're going to lose maybe 5-6 seconds at the start of the run, but you're going to be 4 or 5 tenths faster at the end of it if you play it right. So now that's a personal thing. I always love overcutting when it comes to these long runs. I think it just works better. Some drivers like having that track position early, but to be honest, no, I do not think you go for a short pit here. I think that is an easy way to lose a lot of time on the back half of the next run.
Well, top 10 in point standings to make it into the playoffs, that to me falls into the wheelhouse of drivers that are what I call quietly consistent. And one driver that's looking like that here from last week to this week is that 92 of Michael Sensi. We didn't talk a whole lot about him last week at Daytona, but he made his way up through the field late, brought it home in the 8th position. I've been watching him back there, and he's just been hovering somewhere between 12th to 15th for most of this race. Here he is in a battle right now with the 40 of Nicholas Caressel, and doing what he needs to do. You know, if you only got about a 15th place truck, run 15th. Don't overexert it trying to get a top 10. And the consistency of drivers, even if they don't finish in the top 10 week after week, top 15s can get you into the top 10 in overall standings. And the 92 seems to be doing that here the early portion of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if 10 drivers make the playoffs, you really only need to finish 15th every week to get into that top 10, because the guys that finish top 10 might be jumping in and out. If you can consistently knock off 15th place finishes, that's kind of all you need. He's going to get another spot here on the number 18 of Matt Durr. So, yeah, I mean, you got a good point. Michael Sensi just running quietly inside the top 15. That's all you got to... Whoa! Oh my goodness, Angel Delgado is gone.
He saved it, though, somehow.
Yeah, great save, but he entered the screen and was gone about as quickly as he entered it, just right off the side. Exit stage right, my goodness.
Yeah, good call there, as that truck has been a handful for the last 5 to 7 laps, and now the poles that are going to drop outside the top 15 to 18th place, and his problems may not be over yet as we continue to watch this side-by-side battle between Sensi and Durr. Sensi on the bottom, Durr up on the top. Pretty gridlocked right now for those two. That's the battle for 13th place.
Yeah, I saw Durr get sideways on the front straightaway a couple laps ago. That to me tells me that Durr is not quite in control of that truck right now, just a little bit riding on the edge, so I like Sensi in that battle. Meanwhile, looking back up front, Jackson Sims has cut the lead to about a second, but Cutlip still has a strong advantage, and he's probably going to pit soon. If you want to pit with about 25 to 20 laps to go, that'll give you enough time to use the fresh rubber. I'd say 90 to 95 is about the golden window to come down pit road, and Cutlip is going to enter it soon, so it makes sense to me now why he pushed so hard at the beginning of the run, because he's not really falling off that much right now, and he's going to get bailed out by a pit stop in a couple of minutes here.
Yeah, pretty interesting, too. These drivers were given 6 sets of tires, 1 to start the race on, 5 sets in pit road, and for most of your drivers up inside the top 10, the maximum number of sets that have been put on these trucks has been 2. A lot of these drivers up here have only put 1 set of tires on, so if we end up starting to get into the territory of late race restarts, there's a lot of options available for drivers depending on where they are in the field. I think that a lot of your leaders will probably, depending on how long the green flag runs might be, they're not going to want to get up the track position, but it does give a lot of options for drivers that might be 10th on back on some late race restarts if they want to come down, take advantage of another set of tires. As man, we are just not giving hardly any room up here in this great battle between Peterson and Will Barbagelata, and that's risky, right? Because, I mean, these trucks are already on edge. You're then side by side, banging doors, banging fenders. Just one wrong move, it could be the end of both of your days.
Whoa! Peterson cuts to the bottom and gets loose. Peterson, I think he might be feeling a little bit angry right now, trying to get back through the field after that tough break earlier, but I think he's got to bring it in just a little bit, because some of these moves he's making are hurting himself more than they're helping.
Cuts in front of Hunter Madalinas. Currently in the 6th position is Peterson. Now he'll look to the bottom. We've got some drivers on pit road. Here's Hunter Brittle, who was out front earlier on in this race. Eric Kemp further back on the top of your screen. Also the 40 of Caressel, Nicholas Caressel. Can't make out who that truck is way up there on the top. I believe that might be the 42 truck of Jeremy Pienta.
Yeah, well, like I said, 90 to 95, I think that's going to be the golden window when you got to come down pit road. So we're seeing it open up now. I think anyone that wants to come in early is Barbagelata. Jim Kana's onto pit road, gets it slowed down nicely. No harm, no foul. We'll take it.
Mike Sensi, Zachary Henry, also on pit lane. And not only do you have to make sure that you have that thing pointed the right direction as you come to pit road, got to get that thing mowed down. You do not want to throw away a good finish here at Atlanta via a speeding penalty.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, like I said, getting onto pit road, it should be routine, but it can be a little bit of a challenge. It can be a little bit of a tricky challenge because, you know, with the way a lot of races on iRacing are, you don't really do a lot of green flag pit stops. There's Matthew Weeks sideways onto pit road as well. So be careful because this is a moment that could really bite you.
Big slide there for Matthew Weeks, pitting from the 3rd position. Question now for Cutlip is, when does he come to pit road? Still enjoying about a second gap back to Jackson Sims. And could that be enough of an interval? If you're Sims, you come to pit road 1 lap sooner than the 50. Does that maybe cycle you out to the race lead? Well, it doesn't matter. I think the 50's coming in.
Yeah, Cutlip going to come down pit road, so now I think the game actually changes a little bit. I think if you're Sims, what you'd want to do is maybe stay out a little bit longer. Give it like 2 or 3 laps and then try and use the fresher tires on the next half of the run, because if you only get that 1 lap overcut, you're not going to really be able to get much out of that. But if you get a couple of laps, you might have an advantage later on. So we'll see how he decides to play it as Cutlip comes down for 4 tires and fuel.
Jackson Sims 20th in points coming into this race off the heels of Daytona last week. As we mentioned, Cutlip, this is his first start of the season. Couple of drivers trying to utilize the points being as close as they are here in the early portion of the season to jump up through the standings by leaps and bounds. Here come some more drivers to pit road. That's Tony Manji. Ashton Lawson is in. Shay Neiswanger is in. Further up there, top of your screen, another driver coming down pit road. I believe there's Lewis Woodall, and I believe that is Austin Moore in the 91, who was another driver that was out in front in the early going of this race.
Yeah, definitely. I think now we're kind of getting into overcut territory. Cutlip definitely pitted a little bit, not early, but relatively early for the leaders, so you're not really going to be able to get much of an undercut on him at this point. You might as well try and go a little bit longer. I think that's what Peterson and Sims are going to do here. Actually, and I think Cutlip might have ran into a bit of a problem. Yeah, Cutlip actually had a little bit of an issue on the back straightaway. He tried to cut off Hunter Brittle, and Brittle kind of just drove into his right rear, so a miscommunication there is going to slow him up just a little bit, and now Cutlip has some damage on that right rear.
We'll have to see how that affects him for the remainder of this race. We'll be jumping back, taking a replay look at what transpired there. As to your point, Jackson Sims continues to run long with Christian Peterson. Hunter Madalinas has just pit from the 3rd spot, along with Nathan Jump. That was 3rd and 4th place coming down pit road. And yeah, there's the contact made. Very nearly could have been a yellow flag, but you can see after the contact's made, look how that right rear is hanging out through the corner. Definitely that damage affecting that truck right then and there.
Yeah, I think Cutlip just wanted to get to the top as quickly as possible, and then Brittle tried to cross him over, but just didn't quite time it well. So a bit of a miscommunication there. We'll see how that affects the race for the win. I honestly still think Cutlip is in a good spot, but I'm not sure how much that right rear damage is hurting him. He'll unlap himself here.
Yep, that's going to put him back on the lead lap here, and now that might be where Jackson Sims comes to pit road, right? The 50 is unlapped himself. You know that you're running much slower on these older tires. Now you're going to maybe come to pit road, try and be in a level playing field with Cutlip. We'll see if that 6 is indeed going to hit pit road this time by, or if he'll run a little bit longer. Jared Darling has made a pit stop. Christian Peterson also in it. And yes, Jackson Sims, I believe, has just made the dive onto pit lane.
Good call. Good call. I would have done that too. So Sims in. That'll leave Cutlip out as the he'll cycle through to be the leader. What I really want to watch for here is Madalinas and Peterson versus Cutlip's pace, because they're going to be a good ways back on the road, but they're going to have 4 or 5 lap fresher tires with a little bit over 15 to go. So I like the spot they're in now. I actually think Cutlip might have come in a little bit too early. Not sure. We'll find out.
As of right now, a couple of drivers that also came to pit lane a little sooner than he did are ahead of him. I think it's actually going to be Zachary Henry in the 12, maybe William Barbagelata in the 27. That might cycle out to the front, as they've already been to pit road. Actually, no. Scoring is showing Matthew Weeks as the highest running driver right now that has made a pit stop in the 5th position. 2 spots. Make that 3 spots ahead of Cutlip. So a few drivers that pitted a little bit sooner going to take advantage, at least right now, on the fresher tires on their outlap. Question is, though, does it hang on here for the remaining 15 laps that will hit when the leader takes the stripe in 2 laps' time?
Well, here's what's interesting about this battle here. Matthew Weeks pitted 7 laps ago. He has 1 lap older tires than Jonathan Cutlip. The other 3 in that group pitted 2 laps after or before Jonathan Cutlip did. So what I think this is really going to be a good test of is what is Cutlip's pace with those newer tires but the damage on the right rear. I would think it would level out just a little bit, so he'll have about effectively a 2-lap tire deficit with the damage, and it's looking like that's kind of the case because he isn't really able to make any inroads on Henry here. But if you're Cutlip, you're probably hoping that those tires start to pick up a little bit because Cutlip was in a position to win this race, but with that damage, he might not be anymore.
Yeah, we talk about the multi-group racing here at Atlanta, and specifically when you run up against the wall, that's relying on the air that's put on that right rear quarter panel. With that damage, does that take away that option, do you think?
Probably, yeah. I think the right rear being pushed in like that, you just don't get the same cushion you used to. You know, I think in general, I mean, you want to hang these trucks out on the right rear as much as you can, use all the side force you can, and when you have that right rear pushed in, it's just going to make it a little harder to do that. I'm not sure if it'll make it tighter or more unstable, one of the two, but either way, nothing good.
This is the battle for the race lead right now. We're still waiting on 3 drivers to make their stops here. Matthew Durr in the 18, Spencer Owens, last week's winner in the 23. They are nose to tail right now. And then Robin Durr, that's just back right there in that 98. Those are the 3 trucks that have still yet to come to pit road. And for Spencer Owens right now, I think he's of the thought process of, I've got the win last week at Daytona. I need to gain some points after having a bit of issues here at Atlanta. Let me run long, let me see if maybe a caution comes out. I'm able to have a number of good trucks trapped a lap down and make a good strategy play here in terms of track position. It's kind of like he feels like this is his only option to maybe be up in the conversation for this race win, maybe the Durs as well.
Yeah, valid strategy. I almost wonder if maybe Spencer Owens is trying to save enough fuel to make it to the end. I mean, with all the draft going on, he might be able to. I'm not sure. I mean, he'd need to make it 52 laps on a stint, so probably. Actually, maybe we can go on board here, see if he's clutching and coasting at all. But I'm guessing you're right, that he's probably just trying to stretch it out.
He's up on the top side, so he's obviously taking the longer way around the racetrack, but maybe as well going up there knowing that fresher tires behind him would want the inside line to pass.
Yeah, no clutching out of the 23 truck, so I think he's just trying to catch a caution here.
Watching, looks like the 98 has hit pit road. So now only 2 trucks remain to complete this cycle of green flag pit stops. We've had a couple of position changes here in the last couple of laps. Nathan Jump just got around Eric Kempf. I believe that would cycle him to 12th. Tony Maggi just made a pass on Zachary Henry. That would then cycle him up to the 4th position.
I think the battle, or not the battle, the car we need to watch right now is Hunter Madalinas. Last time by, he set a 32.2. The next fastest truck in this group was Tony Maggi at a 32.9. So Madalinas is tenths of a second faster than the guys in front of him, and that is what the overcut gets you. So Madalinas came in late, and now he's faster than the rest of the group. Watch for him to be a threat late in this race. 10 to go, but I think he has time.
Yeah, it's 4 seconds he'd have to make up between himself and Matthew Weeks as Owens and Durr hit pit road. That will cycle Weeks to the top position. With 10 laps remaining, Ken Madalinas cut into 4 seconds while also having to bypass 4 other trucks before he can even concentrate on Matthew Weeks for the potential race win.
It'll be a challenge, and he might have done it a little bit too late, his pit stop, but I definitely think it's possible. Matthew Weeks, though, he's in a good spot now. I think Cutlip would be the favorite if he didn't have that damage on the right rear, but since he does, Matthew Weeks on those semi-older but pretty decent tires, and most importantly, a clean truck, is in a great spot coming to the end of this race. Penalty, Spencer Owens.
Oh, man. Tough break there for our Daytona winner. That's going to be more points that he'll give away after getting max points last week at Daytona.
Yeah, he was too fast entering on pit road, so say goodbye to the number 23's chances in this race.
See the 18 and Matthew Durr coming back out on the racetrack, but he gave up so much time on those older tires. He's now going to be more than likely finishing this race off the lead lap as William Barbagelato looking at lap times here. Just a tick slower than Matthew Weeks, consistently lap after lap. We're keeping an eye here on the top of the screen. There is Hunter Madalinas. He's gotten by Zachary Henry, so put the 12 in the rearview mirror. He's now up to 5th. He's got 4 more trucks to catch here with 8 laps to go.
Cutlip is getting passed back by Manji. I think Cutlip is out of this race.
Had a strong truck led us past the halfway point of the second half of this race, but then just as you said, miscommunication between himself and Hunter Brittle. You can see that right rear damage sported on the back of the 50 truck, and that has hurt him for the remainder of this run. Trying to hang on for a top 5 here as Madalena is bearing down on both 3rd and 4th positions. Same straightaway, maybe about 5 truck lengths back.
Yeah, it's, you know, I wish his name worked better with the saying, but it is Hunter time, to be completely honest. We saw this a lot last season where Madalenas would come in sort of out of nowhere and just snag wins left and right. He is going to do that, or at least try to do that again today. The overall lead down to 2.2 seconds as he goes into turn 3. He's got 7 to go and a big pace advantage over everyone standing in his way.
Atlanta is going to be a point shakeup, that is for sure. Your top 2 in points that were in that photo finish last week have had issues tonight. Owens, as we documented, the speeding penalty on that final pit stop. You see Elliott Henderson, he just made his final pit stop. He is 3 laps down to the leaders, so we are guaranteed there will be a new driver leading the points heading to Richmond next week as Madalenas makes the pass there on Henderson. Now he'll set his sights on Tony Manji, and if you are Matthew Weeks, you're enjoying a 1.3 second gap back to William Barbachelata, and
That's
you want to see that white flag in the air as soon as possible. You want these laps to tick away as fast as they possibly can.
Yeah, Madalenas is on a tear right now. 5 laps is more than enough time to get rid of that 2-second deficit. He is hand over fist closing in on Matthew Weeks, and if you're Weeks right now, you're just wishing you could go back and make that pit stop just 1 lap later, but it's too late now. Best he can do is run, and Henderson's in the wall hard. Back straight away, but no caution. He kept it straight.
He will stay green. 5 laps remaining as Henderson gets it down to the apron. Gap now, looking back from Weeks to Hunter Madalenas, 1.7 seconds. Plenty of time to work with. It all depends on how long he takes to pass the truck ahead. That is William Barbachelata in the 27.
And you got to hope that advantage doesn't level out much. I mean, Hunter Madalenas needs to be running at full pace as much as he can to run down that 56. But, you know, as much as I think he's got enough time, clock is ticking, buddy. Let's go.
There are no alliances amongst the top 3. 3 drivers, 3 different teams. So Barbachelata, he's going to fight here for this 2nd spot. And the longer the fight, the better that's going to benefit Matthew Weeks. Here's Madalenas, right to the left rear, looks to side draft him back, might make quick work of William Barbachelata as he'll clear, well, here comes Barbachelata battling back. Now clears off of turn 2, and now there's only 1 truck left to beat with 2.5 to go.
Ruthless efficiency. That's what you need if you're Hunter Madalenas. This corner needs to be optimized to perfection. He better come out of turn 4 less than 1.2 away from the lead. Didn't look like a great corner for Hunter there. In fact, Matthew Weeks stretched out the lead a little bit. 1.4 seconds with 2 to go. I don't think it's enough time.
That time by now 1.3 seconds. He was only a 10th quicker, maybe a 10th and a half that last time by. Matthew Weeks, no traffic ahead. That's another important thing for the 56. Clean racetrack in front of him. Eyes out the front, don't even look in the rearview mirror here as you're coming around to see the white flag. Madalenas may have run out of time as Weeks will see the flag he's been waiting for the last 15 laps. White flag displayed here at Atlanta.
Yeah, it was a 4-lap tire difference, and I thought it was going to be enough, but I think Madalenas just didn't quite have enough time. It'll still be a net gain by the 7 truck who started this run outside the top 5. He was struggling throughout much of the day, so a good run for him, but I think Weeks is going to get this one by the skin of his teeth.
4th place to start of the season last week at Daytona, leading 5 laps here tonight. He's going to lead in the closing stages. The green flag pit stop call is going to put Matthew Weeks in victory lane. He's going to take the Plochman's Mustard 177 at Atlanta.
Played it to perfection. He got that perfect balance between pitting early to jump a few cars and late enough to keep the tires on it, and it is going to pay off big time. Matthew Weeks, your winner at Atlanta. Well done, driver 56.
What a start to the season for Matthew Weeks. He will be the points leader going into Richmond next week. What a consistent start to the season, no doubt. There you see points as they run. How about that? Your top 2 finishers, they're going to be tooth and nail, 8-point separation going into that Richmond race next week.
Yeah, Weeks and Madalinas, we saw them, both championship contenders last season. Weeks' season got derailed in that playoff race at Auto Club, but I think he is looking for a little bit of redemption here in season 11. Matthew Weeks, a great victory at Atlanta. He's going to burn it down here on the front straightaway.
And it will be back-to-back victories for Dark Horse Motorsports off the heels of his teammate Spencer Owens' victory last week at the Daytona International Speedway. And this may be a pretty lengthy celebration here for driver 56. And I can only imagine what the heart rate was inside the cockpit of that machine as he was being told the interval between himself and that 7 in those closing stages.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be high, but at the same time, Matthew Weeks, he is cool, calm, and collected as they come. I hope we get to hear from him here in the post-race. I'm sure once he's done doing his burnouts, he'll come up and try and join us. But yeah, he just drove that to perfection, honestly. Pitted at just the right time, held his nerve, and ran a perfect last little run there to take home the victory at Atlanta.
And you see, the lowest he was running here today was 16th. That was during the green flag pit stop cycle. I don't think that truck under green flag conditions was anywhere outside of the top 10 the entire day. Strong, consistent truck throughout this entire event. As to your point, we'll be talking with him as well as our other podium finishes. Madalinas getting second, and Tony Manji was able to snipe third place from William Barbagelata, so he'll finish out the evening on the podium here at Atlanta as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, this was a really fun race. I'm excited to hear from your winner here. Seth, you want to take this one?
Absolutely. Let's go down to victory lane and see if we can dial up the driver of that 56 machine. Matthew, it's the guys up here in the split-second broadcasting booth. Have you got a copy?
Yeah, man, I got you.
All right, so we're up here. Our palms were sweating, keeping an eye on that interval, watching the 7 cut his way through the field, keeping an eye on the lap times and everything. How much focus was in the rearview mirror for you, or how much were you basically just making sure you hit your marks, had those consistent lap times? Because great execution on pit road to be able to bring this thing home.
I think it was the last 2 laps where I really noticed how close he was. I think he was like a second and a half, and that's when I kind of try to go a little bit faster. I didn't want him to get into the draft a little bit because I know that can help, but most of the time I was just focused on trying to hit the right line, take care of my tires, because I knew a couple guys stretched further than I did, so I was just trying to manage my tires through that entire run. And then it sucks to what happened to John, though. He's the one that should have won this race, I think.
Saw you had a good truck on the short run, a good truck on the long run. Mentioned about the fact that outside of the green flag pit stop cycle, you were consistently up inside of the top 10, if not the top 5. Had yourself in the conversation. Do you think it was going to come down to that green flag pit stop? And is that what kind of led to the strategy of when to make the trip to pit road? Or did you maybe think that we would end up seeing some untimely yellow and you might have to defend them all there in some late race restarts?
I knew I was just trying to take care of my stuff, hoping for the long run to come into play. I know we had like the first one was like 25 or something. It was just trying to take care of the tires, and I fell too far back earlier, and I think I fell to like 12th, and that's just too much trying to get the track position back after saving. So I think that last run, I pushed a little bit hard early just to stay in the top 5 right there and try to conserve. And then I got to a certain point where I just couldn't catch John and Jackson anymore. We were just stalemated right there. So I was looking at first I thought 25 laps maybe, and I was like, no, I'll go a little bit longer. And then I got to like 92 or 93, I think it was, when I pitted, and I said, pit right here, pit before John, try to jump in front of him. I wanted the clean air. That was my main goal, was to get the clean air, and it worked out good. We was able to get a good gap, and I was able to manage and finally win in the truck series. It's been a while. I think I should have won a race in here.
An incredible start to the season here for you. Top 5 with a 4th last week at Daytona. You follow it up with the victory here tonight at Atlanta. We could see the elation in that celebration on the front straightaway. We'll let you get back to that celebration here in just a moment. But before we do, Matthew, floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shout-outs.
Oh, shout out to everyone that runs this league, man. Christopher Heller and Zach Henry brought me in last year, and I've had a blast racing these guys. And the Xfinity series we had, y'all didn't broadcast. That was a blast running that in the off season and stuff. And you guys in the booth for coming in and doing it this season. I always enjoy people that do the broadcast and stuff. Always going back and watching the race. So I can't wait to go back and watch this. I know I'll watch some of your other races and other leagues and stuff to get ready. See how y'all do. Y'all do a great job. So I can't wait to go watch it. My buddy Justin Vandermeerle at JV Designs, who painted this beautiful scheme. Wish it was the number 11, but we're stuck with the 56 here. My buddy John Cutlip, I got him in here to run to, I think part-time. So shout out to him for running tonight. He was quick. Like I said, he should have won the race. He had a little incident, I guess, coming out of pit road under that green flag stop. So shout out to him for running tonight. Glad he was able to race with me. And the Dark Horse Motorsports, new team for me. I'm glad to win a race for these boys early in the season and feeling good. And hopefully we keep this momentum up and do better than what we did last season.
Can't have a better start here to season 11 than what you got right now. Back-to-back top 5 finishes and a checkered flag here tonight at Atlanta. Matthew, congratulations on the victory here this evening. Holding them off. Go and enjoy that win.
All right, man. Thank you. Y'all have a good one.
All right, Jonathan, you want to get that second place guy?
I'd love to. I was just gonna say, I can't believe it. That was Matthew Weeks' first career win in the Truck
Yes,
Series,
it
and we didn't
was.
even notice. No, I'm just so used to seeing this guy up front, I kind of forgot that he hadn't won before. So yeah, congratulations, Matthew. That's your first win in the Truck Series. I didn't even realize.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
All right, let's go ahead and bring up your second place finisher, Hunter Madalinas. Hunter, this is Jonathan Oates up in the split-second broadcasting booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you, Jonathan.
Well, man, it's crazy talking to you as a second place finisher because it felt like last season you were the winner almost every single week. And for that last run there, it looked like you might have had something for Matthew Weeks. Just ran out of time at the end. Is there anything you would have done differently if you could do it over again?
I don't think there. I mean, if I had one chance to do it all over again, I would pit one lap before I did. I think that one lap prior to me pitting, if I went on that lap, I think I would have caught him. I first got out and I was kind of in that 13th position, and immediately when I got out, I had to race Ashton. He did a pretty good job holding me behind for a good lap or two, and that kind of held me back, and I was pushing all the way up into second, and then the right front went away, and Weeks had that clean air, so it was normally going to work out for him. I had to catch a monster distance to even have a shot at him.
Yeah, definitely. But you were charging hard there after your pit stop. You talked about how you would have gone one lap earlier, but originally, what went into that thought process of when you were going to come down pit road? Because we saw a lot of guys pitting early, pitting late. How did you decide when you were coming in?
I kind of just judged it off my 8 wins last season. I felt like most of those oval wins came from me pitting later than everybody else. So I knew I wanted to, judge the same thing, try to go for another win. Normally I kind of try to aim around 20 to go if it's a fuel run like that where people are pitting short. 20 laps normally gives you enough time to catch everybody. I just needed 21 more laps on those tires.
Yeah, definitely. You talk about that 8-win season and a championship last year. Looking ahead to the rest of this season, what are your expectations? Where do you see yourself kind of fighting for in this league, and who do you see as your biggest competitors?
I mean, compared to last season, so far, a lot of guys are more competitive than where they were last season. Weeks, you can see he stepped up his game. He was really dominant in the Showdown series. He moved it over here to the Truck Series, and he was doing great last season as a rookie. So, I was expecting nothing less for him to be, a contender again for the championship this year. Looking ahead of the races, it's you kind of just got to look at tracks that I've already won at. I'm excited for the Glen where we got our first win last year. Pocono is always a favorite for me, and we got some fun races in there like Phoenix and Kern Raceway that maybe we could take a win away.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it'll be fun to watch you throughout the rest of the season, and congratulations on a strong second place finish tonight. I'm going to go ahead and let you go.
All right, thank you.
And that was your second place finisher, Hunter Madalinas. We can go ahead and dial up third place Tony Manji now. He is standing by with Seth Cole.
Hey, Tony, it's Seth up here in the split-second broadcasting booth. You got me?
Yes, sir.
Man, I'll tell you what, it really seemed like a tale of two races here. We had that little long green flag run at the beginning of this race, but some cautions kind of split things up into some short runs. Then you guys really had to concentrate on preserving those good years for the long run with the green flag pit stop in between. We saw you have some early issues here, lost that track position with the spin over in turn 1. How difficult was it to fight back, gain that track position, and be, as we kind of call it, conservatively aggressive, making sure that those good years were still around for the long run of this preservation?
I think that's the best way to put it, conservatively aggressive. That there is no doubt about it. That was the name of the game. You know, when we lost all that track position, it was a fight to get back up through there. And we've got so many great drivers in this series. It's incredible, the task that it was to get up through there with a little bit of strategy. And a lot of luck, I'll tell you, because there's a lot of situations there that, you know, we could have been back in trouble again, but we weren't. We kept it clean and kind of slowly but surely made our way to the front, and, you know, a little bit of strategy at the end, and wound up with a top 3 finish. I couldn't be happier.
Able to snipe that final spot on the podium. And talk to me about that strategy too, because I believe you were running around the 8th position when the green flag pit stop cycle began. What were you shooting for when you came down pit road there with about 21 laps remaining? Were you looking to snipe a top 5, or were you kind of looking maybe in the same category as Hunter Madalinas, thinking maybe if I play this just right, I'm going to have enough fresh tires to be able to get up there and maybe take this checkered flag?
You know, I never really thought about the checkered flag till the very end of the race, but really I came into the race just wanting a top 10, a nice smooth day, and about threw it away on lap 0. So, you know, after all that, the strategy, once that all cycled through, I started passing some guys and realizing I was in front of, you know, my teammate Christian Peterson, ahead of, you know, Jackson Sims, a lot of the other guys, and I was like, oh, we've got fresher tires than the 2 in front of us, so maybe we could make something happen. But I think I wore out the tires a little bit too quick trying to get there, and you know, and then Hunter, I knew he was coming fast on some fresh tires. He's fast on any tires or no tires. I don't know. He doesn't need nothing to go fast. So it was awesome to be up there with those guys and battling and having some fun tonight.
You know, Daytona, super speedways, they're always wild card races. Sometimes you come out on the good end of the side of the spectrum and sometimes not on the good side. And, you know, didn't have the best of luck last week despite starting on the outside of the front row, finishing in the 28th position. So a lot of points left on the table. Coming into tonight, how important was it to get this consistent run, kind of establish yourself here going forward as you try and work your way up here into the top 10? Because points very close here at the early portion of the season. More than likely this podium finish going to move you up double-digit positions.
Yeah, that's great to hear. That was exactly what I was shooting for. Anything in the top 10 it was going to be a good night for me. But this really, really helped, you know, right the ship a little bit, because both me and my teammates, you know, Jared Duda and Christian Peterson, we all got caught speeding last week. So we were all kind of kicking ourselves after that, and knew tonight we need to capitalize while it's early on in the season to try to, like you said, get ourselves, you know, established in the top 10 and hopefully in the chase come toward the end of the season.
Well, capitalize you did, bringing it home solidly in the 3rd position here tonight at Atlanta. Congratulations on the great run, Tony. Before we let you go, we get the opportunity here for some thank you sponsors and shoutouts.
Yes, sir. I got to thank Manji Motorsports and Best Overhead Doors and Vinyl Siding. I got to thank my teammates, Christian Peterson and Jared Duda. I know Jared didn't have a very good run tonight, but overall a solid day for Manji Motorsports. I got to thank you guys for the broadcast. You guys do an excellent job every single week, and Jeff and everybody, all the admins for the GLR series. We're having a great season so far and looking forward to some more fun.
Tony Manji, he's your 3rd place finisher here tonight at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Congratulations on the great run. Hopefully, as we said, this is a foothold for you to get some more consistent runs starting next week at the short track of Richmond.
Thank you so much, guys.
Tony Manji bringing it home on the podium tonight between Hunter Madalinas and Matthew Weeks with his first checkered flag of the season, first checkered flag of his career. And, you know, you kind of heard Madalinas say, Jonathan, you know, he ended up in the Xfinity cars doing really well and brought it over here to the Truck Series. I mean, you can't ask for a better start than what we've seen out of this 56. A solid top 5 at the wildcard race of Daytona. The victory here tonight, but next week, Richmond looms on the horizon. At Daytona, it's about positioning. Here at Atlanta, it's about execution and preserving the tires. Next week, it's going to be about track position, I feel like.
Well, it depends on what kind of race you get. I think Richmond has the possibility of being a little bit messy, having a little bit of a war of attrition going on, but at the same time, you could end up with a very clean race that turns into being more about tire saving and strategy. So, it really depends on what we get. I think Richmond is kind of an unknown, and I'm very excited to see how it plays out. I will say, though, Matthew Weeks probably going to be strong again there. He was strong all of last season, and that development is continuing so far in Season 11. 2 top 5s and a win to start off the year. It'll be fun to see what he can do at a very different track next week.
We talked with our top 3. Let's take a look at where the rest of the drivers finished here tonight. William Barbagelata just getting sniped for that spot on the podium, but he'll bring it home in the 5th position. And you liked the look of Jackson Sims here in this race. He's going to net a solid top 5. Zachary Henry, his hands were full multiple times on restarts, but he's still able to garner a 6th place finish. Ashton Lawson, I believe he was part of that turn 1 dust up on lap 1. He comes back for 7th. And Jonathan Cutlip, you heard Matthew Weeks say that was probably the truck of the night to beat. Had that misfortune after the cycle of pit stops, had the right rear damage. He'll still get 8th. Nathan Jump going to bring it home in 9th. And Christian Peterson, who had fought his way up to the front but had a difficult time in preserving those tires, he's still going to net a top 10 run here this evening.
Yeah, some tough breaks there at the bottom end of the top 10, but Nathan Jump making the most out of a mediocre run in 9th, so there you go. 11th through 20th, Shane Neiswanger comes home in 11th. Michael Senzi, quietly consistent like you mentioned, comes home in 12th. Hunter Brittle, P13, P14 for Angel Delgado after starting on pole. Not bad for one of the newer drivers in this league. Eric Kepf comes home in 15th. Austin Moore in 16th after getting out to a big lead earlier on in the race, fell back a little. Lewis Woodall picks up the pieces of a bit of a messy run tonight, moves from 32nd up to 17th. Solid run by him. Robin Durr 18th, Matt Durr 19th, and Jared Darling going to round out your top 20.
The rest of these drivers here, a lot of them really struggled during the course of this race, as Justin Mons and Ron Fastenau, they're going to be the last 2 drivers to finish on the lead lap. Nicholas Caressel -1 to the leader. Spencer Owens, after the speeding penalty, our Daytona winner, 24th is where he'll finish here tonight. We'll have to see where that positions him in the points going into Richmond. James Schiffler brings it home in 25th. Elliot Henderson had the issue on lap 1. He then ended up having multiple issues during the course of this race. Ended up finishing multiple laps down in 26th. Brent Kincott, we saw him make some unscheduled pit stops. He finishes in the 27th position. I believe he was the first driver in the garage area at the conclusion of this race. Other drivers that did not reach the conclusion included Blair Neabone, Adolfo Delgado, Jared Dutta completing the top 30.
And rounding out the field here, I think we got a couple more finishers on the next page. Jeremy Payenta finishes in 31st. Daniel Nanny, 32nd. Aiden DuPont, 33rd, involved in, I believe, 2 incidents tonight. Evan Snyder, 34th. Luciano Espinera, 35th. And rounding out the field, last place is Travis Hanby, 108 laps down. Tough break for him early on.
Well, we mentioned here tonight this was going to be a race of strategy. Who was going to be able to save their tires the best? And it came down between Matthew Weeks and Hunter Madalinas. Matthew Weeks able to take home the checkered flag for the first time in his career here in the Great Lakes Racing Truck Series. The Plochman's Mustard 177 goes to Matthew Weeks. He'll be the new points leader going into Richmond next week. Hope you guys will join us here as we'll be bringing you coverage of that next Tuesday night. For my colleague Jonathan Notes, our producer Jeff Johnson, thanks for joining us here tonight at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. We'll see you guys next Tuesday night as we continue on the 11th season of the Great Lakes Racing Truck Series here on Split Second Broadcasting.